Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambeau channel. Attorney John Deaton, who of course is running for Senate against Elizabeth Warren, arguably the worst senator that this country has ever had to suffer through. He is highlighting misconduct from the SEC specifically, and that's an interesting topic in and of itself. But you know what? As it turns out, John Deaton might actually end up face to face with Gary Gensler and have the opportunity to absolutely grill him, which will result in him being raked over the coals figuratively. Also, this is happening at a time where calls are mounting for Gary Gensler to be straight up fired. And I've got some stuff to say about that as well. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. Alright, so just yesterday I published a video all up on the YouTubes where I was highlighting that Gary Gensler, that little baby back biatch, my god, he was scared. He was physically shaking. I shared the video on my channel. He was physically shaking when asked questions at the congressional hearing the other day. Physically shaking. Had a hard time getting through that. And not surprising, he's on the wrong side of history, and he's just been an absolutely disgusting example of a human in running this agency. I mean, he's harmed so many people, investors, regular everyday people, which he was sworn to protect. So I have absolutely zero empathy and zero sympathy for this guy whatsoever. In fact, I rather enjoyed seeing this because he's such a terrible, destructive human. And he thought it would be best for him. He thought that it might help him to get an even more prestigious position after this. Because, and of course, so why was he doing what he's doing? From the top on down with the current administration. Ram crypto into the ground. And oh my God, let me tell you, Gary Gensler is like, hold my beer, Jay Clayton. And he took over that role, and he's done absolutely everything he can to do just that. Now, of course, he's failing. It's not ultimately going to succeed, but that was unquestionably the goal. And so he's had, obviously, everybody on the Republican side grilling him into oblivion, because at this point, being pro-crypto is effectively a Republican Party platform. Whereas being anti-crypto, that's effectively a party platform of the Democrat Party. Although there are a couple dozen or so members of Congress who are pro-crypto on the Democrat side, and I will continue to give them credit because it's due for that. But it was great seeing even them absolutely grilling Gary Gensler. And so now that that's over, I thought I'd share with you this post from Attorney James Murphy, member of the XRP community, aka Meta Lawman, and he shared some thoughts, brief thoughts, after watching Gary Gensler get ripped to shreds. And it really was fun to watch, I gotta say that. But I kid you, if you didn't see the video, you gotta check the video out. He was just, and it's on my profile. You can check out my video, or if you want to just go on X, I posted. A bunch of other people did too. You can find it pretty easily. But he's physically, like, his hands are jittery. It's not a medical problem. I mean, that's a virtual certainty. It happened right here as he's under, like, there's a lot of pressure. It's on television, and he doesn't have a way to defend himself, and he got really nervous, and he just started shaking. But anyway, so here's what Meta Lawman said. My take on the SEC hearing. I have to say Gary Gensler looked and sounded like a beaten man to me. Patrick McHenry, a representative in Congress, of course, set it up perfectly. It was absolutely humiliating for Gensler to have to sit there and listen to his colleagues rip him, for valid reasons, from 3 feet away. That is a punishing experience for any leader of any organization. And again, I'll pause to say it one more time. John Deaton might get the opportunity to be face-to-face with Gensler and do the exact same thing. But anyway, Attorney Murphy then wrote, finally, it just keeps getting clear that young Rep. Richie, so that would be actually a representative in the House on the Democrat side, actually, who is very pro-crypto. He did a great job just destroying Gary Gensler. So he said, finally, it just keeps getting clear that young Representative Rich Torres from the Bronx is a superstar in the making in the Dem party. It is our good fortune that he happens to be a strong advocate for digital asset innovation. Yep, that is all absolutely true. And then we have this headline. Mark Cuban calls on SEC to fire Chairman Gary Gensler in Washington, D.C. meeting. Now, I don't really need to go through this article and read it. I've got some commentary. I just want to share with you some thoughts. So some of you may already be aware, but Mark Cuban, he is supporting Kamala Harris's run for president. Interesting. Because he's pro crypto, right? And Harris, up to this point, I mean, she's been complicit in the destruction of this asset class. But Mark Cuban, also of Shark Tank fame, by the way, Mark Cuban is also highly supportive of John Deaton. Interesting, right? And so he's been backing John Deaton on the Republican side to try and push Elizabeth Warren out. And so Cuban, whatever you think, he's entitled to his opinions. That's fine. That's not the purpose of this video. I'm just laying out the landscape here for you. But he wants Gensler gone too, so that part's good. But wait a minute here. Can he be fired? Can Gary Gensler actually be fired? Well, let me circle back to that. Here's another headline. I don't really need to read this. I'm just trying to make some points. From Crypto Briefing, Kamala Harris likely to fire Gary Gensler if elected, says Mark Cuban. And here's a post from Mark Cuban. And he wrote, I talked to the Harris team today who told me in no uncertain terms that they are against regulation through litigation. See ya, Gensler. You leaving is worth a point in GDP growth. Okay, so on the last point, of course, more economic activity if you don't completely destroy the industry. Yeah, okay, fine. To whatever degree that happens, and it would, we can agree there. But just because Harris's team is saying something, I mean, like, this is the same animal that has been she's been part of this she's currently part of the administration that's been tearing this down. So forgive me for not believing this. But even if it's true, and they're going to stop trying to destroy crypto, which I don't buy for a second, by the way. I don't, because I'm looking at actions, right? I'm looking at all of, well, specifically Harris's inaction for the last over 3.5 years. But even if it's true that this administration would be against regulation through enforcement, well, the new signal gets sent from the top of that administration, assuming Harris wins, which is possible. She could. If that happens, then the new signal gets sent. And if Gensler could end up sticking around, and maybe he behaves a little bit differently possible, or they don't believe it, or don't mean it rather, and Gensler sticks around. Do you want to risk that? I don't care to personally. But the truth of the matter is, you actually can't fire an SEC chair. It doesn't work like that. So I see all these calls, Gary Gensler needs to be fired. And I appreciate the sentiment. I understand. I understand where it's coming from. I got your back. But I just want to let you know from a factual perspective, that literally is not a thing. And so there was this piece titled Can't Be Fired from factcheck.org from September 18th of 2008. And I won't read the whole thing, but at the time, John McCain stated that, if he were in charge, the SEC chair would be fired. He said that he would fire him if he were president today. And of course, he was running for president. But check this out. ABC News points out that while the president nominates and the Senate confirms the SEC chair, a commissioner of an independent regulatory commission cannot be removed by the president. And at least one such firing in the past was ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. So no, this can't happen. Now, it is true that it has become customary. It's a customary thing. It just is. For an SEC chair to step down if a new administration comes in. That's become just the norm. That's what that little prick Jay Clayton did when Biden was elected in the office at the end of 2000. And that's why we got the Ripple lawsuit when we did, by the way. It might not have happened until after the last bull run. Who knows? Because it seems clear to me like they weren't ready to actually sue Ripple quite yet. They rushed it because Jay Clayton was leaving. He wanted it to happen. And so we possibly could have gone through that entire last bull run if not for the fact that Biden got elected. And we'll never know for sure. It's just speculation, but that might be the case here. Either way, I do not trust what would happen under a Harris administration in the world of crypto. Not one tiny little bit. You can take a look at this headline too, though, by the way. Kamala Harris wants the U.S. to remain dominant in blockchain. Oh, okay. So for the first time in your damn campaign, something about crypto said publicly here. For the first freaking time. Again, forgive me if I don't believe your seriousness here. I don't. I absolutely do not. And in fact, again, she's part of the current administration, the vice president. Why didn't you do something about it over the last 3.5 freaking years? Why do you have to get elected when you're already in the current administration that's in power? Why don't you do something right this second? I don't believe you. Period. I absolutely don't believe you. Really grinds my gears just thinking about it, son. So wants us to remain down. Now here's the other thing. She says that, no policy whatsoever. Just the face holes moving, blah, 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 blockchain thing I don't know about, blah, 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 come on, blah, 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 blah. Okay, where's the damn policy? Can you write it down? I mean, I'll write, even, I don't care what, if you don't have a paper, like find a damn napkin, jot down your policy, hand it to me, I'll accept that. I don't care. It doesn't have to be typed or anything. Just tell me what it is. But they're not gonna. There's no policy. Maybe they're gonna put something forward, but there's no way I'm gonna believe it. Do you? I feel like you'd have to be gullible to believe it at this point, frankly. My God. And then there's John Deaton. So like I said, he may get the chance to grill Gary Gensler himself. So let me share with you some stuff that he's been saying lately. There's this headline from the Crypto Basic. Pro-XRP lawyer exposes Gary Gensler in Senator Warren's inconsistent anti-crypto agenda. Pro-XRP lawyer and Massachusetts Senate candidate John Deaton criticizes U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren and SEC Chair Gary Gensler over their inconsistent anti-crypto agenda. Attorney Deaton slams Senator Warren for not questioning SEC Chair Gary Gensler about his private meetings with FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried, whom he called the Bernie Madoff of crypto. Quote, Elizabeth Warren is anti-crypto, yet she hasn't asked SEC Chair Gary Gensler about his private meetings with FTX founder SBF, end quote. Now, isn't that funny? Isn't that surprising? I mean, it's not surprising, actually. But it's interesting, certainly, isn't it? I mean, think about this. Gary Gensler taking a hammer to everything, every good faith actor in the crypto space, trying to take a hammer to everything that these entrepreneurs are trying to build. They're putting everything on the line to build these companies. He takes a hammer to that, yet he meets with that cucumber-eating son of a bitch SBF, couldn't sniff out that there's a damn Ponzi scheme standing directly in front of him, doesn't take a hammer to that one. So why hasn't Elizabeth Warren asked Gary Gensler about that? She asks about everything else and alleges that everything else is bad and a scam and so on and so forth. Why not that? Might it be because Gary Gensler is her best buddy? Maybe. Piece continues. The pro-XRP attorney asked why the SEC chair has not released the notes of the private meetings with SBF. Notably, the top lawyer suggested that the senator and Gensler could be protecting SBF, given that the FTX founder was the second biggest donor to the Democratic Party in the last election. Both Warren and Gensler have been vocal in criticizing the crypto industry as fraudulent. However, they have failed to maintain the same energy against a close associate like SBF. Oh, isn't it funny how that works? That's because it was Gary Gensler's, I mean, you could call it incompetence, but the truth is he knew what he was doing. He was choosing to not look into that. He didn't want to look into that. So now that it fell apart, basically Senator Warren would have to sacrifice Gensler. And she doesn't want to do that because that's an ally, obviously. But check this out. Notably, Deaton expressed interest in serving in 3 U.S. Senate committees if he wins the upcoming November election. First, he disclosed his ambition to serve on the Veteran Committee, emphasizing that he wishes to push for fair treatment of U.S. veterans. Attorney Deaton also aims to be a member of the Senate Ethics Committee. According to him, there is a need to establish ethics in the United States government to rebuild public trust and faith. Lastly, Deaton emphasized that if he defeats Senator Warren in November, he plans to replace the experienced senator in the Senate Banking Committee. Interestingly, Deaton noted that his inclusion in the Banking Committee would allow him to ask Gensler a few important questions. That's right. So instead of Elizabeth Warren given softball questions, and in the case, this is proven a couple years ago, her team, they wrote up questions to be asked with answers that could be used, that would line up with the questions, and gave that to Gensler before he was asked the questions in advance. They were coordinated, so it was just a tap dance, a little song and dance, a little show. That's what they were putting on. The whole thing's a charade. So if she's not there anymore, guess who gets to take that spot? Attorney Deaton. That's right. He would then be Senator Deaton, and he Oh my God, it'd be so glorious. I mean, because think about everything that we've gone through as an XRP community together, which John Deaton is absolutely a part of, and all the things that we've said, all the things that we know, and then to know that Attorney Deaton would be, then Senator Deaton under this hypothetical, which he could win, by the way. He absolutely could. For him to then be in charge and genuinely have that opportunity, oh my God, that would be one of the best days that there ever could be. And it actually could happen. That is a thing that might happen. That is exciting. Oh my God, I'd love that. And then there's this from CoinPedia. XRP News, John Deaton exposes SEC misconduct in Ripple v. SEC lawsuit. Now, I don't want to read this whole thing anyway. It's not the point. But part of it reads as follows. Pro-crypto attorney John Deaton has accused the SEC of intentional misconduct during the Ripple case. Deaton, a prominent voice in the XRP community, alleges that the SEC's legal team engaged in unethical practices, further complicating an already contentious legal battle. Yeah, they certainly did. And so this is another reason I would love to see him win and to completely defeat Senator Warren. Even then, it's an uphill battle to actually get any of these people to be held accountable for, intentionally misleading the court, even in the SEC v. Ripple lawsuit. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm kind of skeptical that's going to happen. Like, even if John's in charge, that's quite the uphill battle. If there's anyone that could pull it off, it's him. Don't get me wrong. But in a situation like this, I mean, look, the SEC, they stepped over the line even more egregiously in the debt box case, which I was talking about just the other day. Because, they were so blatantly trying to destroy the company by getting accounts frozen and stuff like that. And the judge called them out, thankfully. And then they got fined $1.8 million for that. And a couple attorneys there actually lost their jobs. I can't remember if they technically resigned or not. But anyway, a couple of them were sacrificed. Harder to pull off in Ripple. It was more blatant in that case. But still, at least it's probably more disgusting because more people were harmed in the SEC v. Ripple lawsuit as a result of all of these actions and the misleading and all that. Complete and utter incoherent arguments, the hypocrisy, the whole 9 yards. So I would love to see additional people held accountable. Maybe that's going to happen. More likely if Deaton's in charge, though, I'll tell you that. So let's hope that happens. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.